This podcast is brought to you by Contessa Digital.
Have you ever been in a place in your life where you felt stagnated? You just felt like nothing was moving. You were kind of paralyzed by either the abundance of choices that you had or the complete lack of choices that you had, and you just didn't know where to start. Hey, love. Welcome to Confidently Cherished. I'm your host, Keisha Rice, and I'm a dating coach for ambitious women of faith. I help them break unhealthy generational patterns and to form new generational blessings that allow them to attract healthy love. And the reason why I asked you that question about stagnation is because, one, to be honest, I'm kind of in one of those seasons myself right now. A few months ago, I had, the big C, COVID, and I recovered from that and then got sick again. Ended up, taking a couple of trips to my local hospital. And as I'm in this process of recovering, I had to slow down some. I had to post a little less on social media, take fewer clients, all of that. Spend some more time in bed. And I always joke about how I work too much and how I need to take a break. I definitely was not planning on taking a break like this, right? That was definitely not how I imagined it. And it just, this whole time that I've been recovering and everything has just felt really uncomfortable for me. Not just because I'm used to being a person who is always on the go and always working. My husband uses the word workaholic, but yeah, not just because of that, but also because, I've dealt with chronic health issues in the past. I've dealt with periods of taking time off, for fun things, for vacations, or, to just spend more time with my husband, all of that. And every time I've entered one of those seasons where I'm doing less, whatever the reason may be, I always had a clear plan for how I was moving forward next. And this time is a little bit different. I'm actually also having to take the time to figure out that plan. But I was looking at a clip today on YouTube, and it was by Robert Greene. If you don't know who Robert Greene is, he is an author. He's written several books. The most well-known ones are probably 48 Laws of Power. And the other book is about seduction. I believe it is called Secret of Seduction. And I don't know why I'm faltering on this right now because I've read both books, but I believe it is called Secret of Seduction. He's written several other books as well. He is a master of communication, of, learning how to be a leader and get your way, and also just human behavior and human psychology. So in this video, he was talking about taking the first step. He was talking about the fact that most of us get into these periods where, we get a little stagnated, and oftentimes we don't pull ourselves out of these scenarios. Way too often, we don't move out of stagnation until we get pushed out of it by something or someone. Or we live our lives stuck in some area for our entire lives. I know people who they would say that they're religious, right? So they're Christian or they're Jewish, they're Muslim, they're Hindu, whatever their religion may be. But if you talk to them about more spirituality, like a personal experience, a personal relationship with God, with their creator, they don't really have that. And I think part of that is stagnation, You are taught things about your faith from your parents, your religious leader, or whatever, and you just kind of accept those things and go through the motions without really taking that step towards developing a personal relationship for yourself. There are people who are stagnant with money for their entire lives. They finish their education, whether that's high school education or they go into college or trade school, whatever. They get a job and they kind of stay at around whatever salary they have their entire lives. Every few years or so, a promotion may come up or a cost of living raise or something like that. But they never really progress. By the time they are retiring at 65, God knows, as a millennial, by the time we retire, it'll be our 70s, 80s. But by the time they retire, they're not that much further than they were at 24, 25. There are people who stagnate in their health. In high school, they were thin, they were active, all of that good stuff. And, around college, they gain a little weight from being on your own and eating like crap because you don't know how to properly cook. You keep that weight on as you leave college, get into the real world because you're stressed and you get used to sitting at a desk job all day. On the weekends, you don't really want to go out like that. You just want to, be home and crash and rest. And they never get back into optimal health. They don't even really make the effort to do so. That brings me to relationships. The reason why we're all here for the show to begin with. And I think about the fact that so many people I know are stagnated in their relationships and will remain stagnated, honestly, for the rest of their lives. I know people who were not treated the best by their parents, and they've never healed from that. So every relationship they have is a mirror of the relationship they have with their parents. They choose a partner who is controlling, like their mom, or they choose a partner who is always emotionally unavailable, like their dad. Every relationship, romantic and even their friendships too. They have codependent relationships within their families. Their friendships are the same way. They could even have a codependent relationship with their job, where the boss constantly takes advantage of them and they allow it because they want to be a people pleaser, because they want to feel appreciated. They want to be acknowledged. And of course, romantic relationships as well. And I was thinking about this in the context of that Robert Greene clip and about what taking the first step would mean. Because I had my own history of unhealthy relationships, and I was thinking about all the false starts I had, right? So I can think of times that I got out of a relationship that wasn't too great. And my first reaction was, obviously, my picker is off. I just don't know how to pick a great partner. So the answer is that I shouldn't pick my own partner, right? I should allow friends or family members to do that for me and asking for people to set me up. And if that didn't work, I thought, okay, so the issue is just my circle is not that great. I am not in an environment that is conducive to meeting the right man. So I need to date online and expand my horizon some. Broaden the geographical area in which I needed to look and, do that. I'll have more options. I'll have better options then I get in a relationship that came from online dating and it wouldn't work out, right? So I thought, okay, I need to broaden my horizons more, right? Maybe it's just I'm a Black woman, and the last few men I've dated have also been Black. So I need to expand my horizons as far as being more diverse. And I would get in a relationship with someone who was not Black, someone who was white or Asian or Hispanic. And when that relationship didn't work, it was, what's the next thing? What's the next first step that I can take? And there's nothing wrong with doing these things, to be clear. If you have a friend who has great discernment and who has a great social circle, then yeah, allow her to introduce you to some people. I am a fan of online dating. I think it is great. I think it's a great way to expand your horizons. Ultimately, I did end up marrying a man who is Latino, and I think that it is great to diversify your options that way as well, to consider all races, all skin colors. You never know who you can meet. But these are not first steps, is the problem. These are things that you do after you've done some other work first. Dating strategy, dating tactics don't matter if you have not first done the inner work on yourself. If you have not first learned to be at peace with yourself, to heal those generational patterns, to learn how to love yourself first. Everything flows out of your relationship with yourself. So when we talk about taking the first step to a healthy relationship, the first step to a healthy relationship is spending some time alone. And I mean really alone. Not you say you're going to be alone, but yeah, you'll still go out and date. And then if you meet someone and just accidentally fall into a relationship, then, oh, well, I tried to be alone for like a week. No, you actually need to spend some time alone. So the reason why this is important is because, one, it is in taking this time to spend some time by yourself that you start to get really deep and reflective on who you are as a person and what it is that you need. It's also this time to connect with something deeper than yourself at the same time. I always talk about how I work with women of faith. And by women of faith, I mean that my clients, I work with women. I only want to work with women who believe that their spirituality is important to them. So they don't necessarily have to be Christian like I am, but, I work with women who are Christian, who are Jewish, who are Muslim, who are Hindu, who are spiritual. So they don't necessarily ascribe to a particular religion, but they believe in a higher power and they spend time connecting with that higher power. Because I believe that really grounds you to have something like that working in your background. And part of that alone time is learning how to connect with that life force that is within you. So that could be prayer, that could be meditation. It can also be things like, I am a personal fan of hypnotherapy, and, doing those things, taking that time to connect and center yourself. Once you are more grounded, you're less likely to be swept off your feet by foolishness, right? So that's one of the first things that we do when we spend time with ourselves. We also get to know what we like and what we don't like. So this means this could be as simple as watching new TV shows and new movies that you wouldn't normally check out, but taking the time to get to know whether or not you may like these genres. It can also mean, taking up new hobbies, new interests, taking a cooking class, joining one of those groups that's on like Meetup or Eventbrite, and learning new skills, learning a new hobby, going to network. Because yes, you can spend time alone and also be around other people. But I encourage women to learn how to go to events by themselves. Go to a restaurant by yourself, coffee shop by yourself, strike up a conversation with a stranger. Learn how to create this whole world of experiences for yourself that don't rely on whether or not all 12 of your friends are available that weekend. Learn how to spend this time enjoying your own company and not being afraid to venture out and enjoy the company of people that, you've never met before. As you're learning these things that you want and need, you also want to keep in mind your sensuality as well. I know this can be a touchy topic, especially for those like me who grew up from a very conservative background, because sensuality is always mixed with sexuality in those conversations. But it's really important to learn what makes you feel good. I enjoy from time to time having flowers, for example, having fresh cut flowers to look at and to smell. But it's not something I actually want all the time. I have friends who get flowers every single day, whether it's they buy it for themselves or their partner does. And it's just a huge thing for them. And it's more of an occasional treat for me. Like, I appreciate them from time to time, but it's not something that would light me up to have every single day. And I've seen this in like femininity videos talking about, delighting your senses, always having flowers around. And if, I don't know, I was watching some femininity coach and that was the big tip, I would be highly disappointed, honestly. So learn if that's the thing that delights your senses, the sight and the smell of flowers. Maybe it is, for me, it's hot baths. The feeling of that warm water just like washing over me, over my skin. That is a feeling that I love to experience. So I take baths whenever it is possible to do so. Maybe your sensuality is in enjoying the taste of certain things. I love to travel. And one of the things that I've learned in my traveling is how much of an experience food can be. Because I guess when I'm home, I'm caught up in my everyday life. I'm caught up in working. I'm caught up in trying to maintain a social life, trying to spend time with my husband, studying. I'm currently going back to school for a certification. So I get caught up in all these things, and eating is just something that needs to be fit into my busy schedule. So, I grab whatever and eat. And it's when I travel that I really take the time to sit. I really take the time to actually experience the food that I'm eating, to really enjoy it. And it's when I have those moments that then I come back home and I'm like, oh, this is something that's very pleasurable for me. And I need to, get back into that habit or maintain that habit of enjoying that experience. So find out what it is that arouses your senses, what it is that gives you pleasure in life, and hone in on those things. You also want to, in this first step of spending time alone, you also want to take inventory. You want to take inventory of the relationships that you do have. And you want to ask yourself, how are you benefiting from these relationships? how are you benefiting those people that you're in relationships with? Because it's a two-way street, right? And I want to be in relationships with people who are good to me, who benefit me, who I can learn from. But there's also a satisfaction that I get in knowing that I'm making a difference in their lives as well. I want to feel that reciprocity. So if you're in relationships where neither of you can really give anything to each other, why are you still there? Especially if these are relationships that are, I don't want to say easier to end, but, especially if these are romantic relationships or if these are friendships. If you have a relationship with family members and you're not encouraging each other, uplifting each other, motivating each other, it's a little bit harder because it's family. But then you're looking at, yes, this person is my family. And if it turns out that this relationship is toxic, I can choose to go no contact with them. I don't have to talk to this person, be involved with this person just because I'm related to them. And even if the relationship isn't toxic, but it's just not productive, you can make the decision to go low contact, to only talk about certain things, certain topics, to keep it short, and to focus on spending your time in environments where you are learning, where you are growing, around people who motivate you to grow. So I can think of friendships that I have where, as a businesswoman, these relationships aren't necessarily productive outright, because these are friends of mine who work 9-to-5s, are happily working 9-to-5s, and they don't understand the ins and outs of owning a business, and they don't understand why I would want to own a business, right? But they are productive because, in general, these are friends who really uplift me, who encourage me to go after my goals, no matter what the goal is. And even if they themselves don't understand the goal, if the goal will make me happy, that's all that matters. And they will always cheer me on. Seeing how much they care about me and seeing how much they encourage me, that is what motivates me to learn more about my business, to try to grow my business, to get out there, put myself out there on social media, on this podcast, because I know that they have my back. So that motivates me to be better. You want to make sure that you have relationships like that in your life. And again, if you don't, you need to start asking yourself, why are you staying in environments that are cramping you, that are keeping you down? Because here's the thing. We talked earlier about those false starts that I had in relationships, how I was taking the wrong first steps. If those relationships had worked out and I had been with someone who was really compatible with me, who was aligned with my values, who was healthy, who was good for me, those relationships still wouldn't have worked out because I didn't know myself, because I didn't appreciate myself, because I didn't know what I needed, what I liked, so I couldn't communicate those things. And because I wasn't in the headspace of expecting other people to hold me accountable and to also uplift me and encourage me. I was not in the mindset that was, really, truly possible in relationships. And if I had had a partner back then who was that type, when we got to the moments where, say, he was going to hold me accountable to something, I would have been triggered. I would have called him all kinds of a-hole. How dare you? Like, you don't know me. You can't tell me what to do, that type of thing. And if he had really encouraged some of the goals and ambitions I had. There was a time where I wasn't getting a lot of that encouragement. So I would have thought that he was just like love bombing. I would have thought that he was, blowing smoke up my rear end. I wouldn't have really trusted that and believed that. But as I've worked on my relationships, and I will also say, because I have friendships, I have relationships with certain family members that have been built over time, not just because we're related. And, some of these relationships I've been in these situations, I've been in these friendships for 10, 15, 20 years. So even in that, I will say that looking at some of my friends now, a lot of us grew together. I wasn't in a situation where, like I talk about, some of my friends not necessarily being as supportive as I would have liked them to be when I was younger, but I wasn't also supportive of them as well. And that was kind of a big thing, was when I started evaluating my own relationships. There were people who talk about stagnation. Our relationships never evolved. And because of that, I had to let them go. And there were relationships in which I could see that I had grown up and evolved and matured, and so had they as well. And it was because we had both done the growing and working on ourselves that we were able to come out on the other end with better relationships. But back to what I was saying before, it is in doing these things and taking a deep look at who you are and your relationship with yourself and improving that, showing more love and care to yourself, and then taking a look at your existing relationships and seeing where they stand, whether or not you are aligned with those, and whether or not you are feeling loved and cared for and supported in those. That's when, after that, the dating strategy comes into play. That's when you look at, okay, how is it that I want to put myself out there? What type of man am I looking to attract? What qualities do I need to work on and improve in order to attract that type of man? Those things are important. They're just not the first step. And if you make your first step just, I'm going to get out here and get more dates, you're setting yourself up for failure. You truly are. Because you will, one, get caught up on the quantity of dates. It will always be a thing of, I'm not getting enough dates. Why is it that I'm not being asked out, 3 or 4 times every weekend? Why is it that all these other women are doing this and doing that, but, I can't get a text back? You will focus on the wrong things instead of focusing on whether or not when you do meet someone, when you do connect with someone, are they healthy? Do you feel safe around them? Is this someone that you're very compatible with? Those are the things that you need to be focused more on. And then again, if you're not doing this work before you put yourself out there into the dating pool, even if you do meet a great man, you are going to end up sabotaging it because you don't have the foundation. So, like Robert Greene said, it's so important that you just take the first step. Take that first step and then allow everything else to fall into place. And that first step for you is focusing on the relationship with yourself. So I am going to leave you on this note. Take out a piece of paper and a pen and journal on this. Ask yourself this question. If you were someone else, would you date you? Think about that. Love you so much, and I will see you on the next episode. Hey there. So you made it all the way to the end of the episode, which means I have 2 things to say. 1, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And 2, you like me. You really like me. So I would appreciate it if you would show that like by subscribing to this podcast so that more people can hear about it and enjoy it as much as you do. And if you want to know more about any of the links that I mentioned on this episode or any guests that I've had, be sure to go to KeishaRice.com/links. That's KeishaRice.com/links. I can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode. So see you then.